Hi friends, it's Jessica at Pretty Prints and Paper. Today I am excited to bring you a video that I've been meaning to bring for a long time, and it marries two things that I love, which is planning, journaling, and career and job search. So in a past life, I wanted to be a career coach. I work with college students, and this is one of the ways that I wanted to work with them is career development and job search. I see them as two different things because career development you can do all the time, whereas job searching is more episodic. And I know that this is something that people go through various stages of their lives, and I personally have a couple tips that I think could help in your bullet journal. So the supplies I will be using today are this Erin Condren journal notebook. It's got a coil on it. It's about a 7-inch by 9-inch journal, lays completely flat. So I'll just show you how you could use that if this is an option that you want to explore for an alternative notebook to, the popular Rhodia, Moleskine, Leuchtturm notebooks. And I'll show you some of the other pens that I'm using along the way as well. So when people start doing career development, I like to emphasize the importance of knowing who it is that you are, what it is that you bring, and what matters to you. So I start off with a lot of these different categories, and this is from training that I've had in career development in my time at grad school, in my life work, and stuff like that. So I hope it can be of use to you. Some of the things that I want folks to sit down and create spreads for and lists for are things like your skills. These are the things that you are good at that you can do, things that you can accomplish. So things could be specific software, certain tasks that are related to field-specific things. Teaching could be one. I have familiarity and proficiency in Google Apps, curriculum writing, assessment, creating internal processes. So these are the things that people might ask you to do. Make a list of those and be honest and own what it is that you can do well. Remember that sometimes the things that are your strengths are things that you don't see are a big deal because it comes easily to you, whereas other folks look at you and say, oh my God, that's amazing. I couldn't ever dream of doing that. So if you need help from your friends or people who know you or your team, ask them, and I'm sure they could tell you things that you did not know that you were good at. Gifts, I think, is different. So skills are what you can do. Gifts are who you are and what you bring to a space. So for me, collaboration and partnerships is huge for me. Building relationships is huge for me, and that's something that I bring to a space and who I am. I have a growth mindset, which means that I think that we can always learn and do more and better in the future if we work hard at it. And things that I bring are also aligning to purpose. So what is the mission? What is the purpose of what we're doing? And making sure that our actions align with that. So what are the gifts that you bring? What do you bring to a space? Think about that. That might be hard as well. But again, ask the people around you. They might be able to tell you. Now, interests is a little bit different, where it could be related to the different fields. So for example, I might be good at facilitation, but my interests could be in different fields where I could facilitate. So, for example, education in the college setting, of course I'm interested in that. That's where I am right now. I'm also interested in career coaching, so maybe I could facilitate or write curriculum for a career coaching place. Leadership development, so that can take place in many, many, many spaces. So I can always find different companies or different fields that are interesting to me, because, doing leadership development at a national public radio would be a little bit different than leadership development at a Target corporation or a small company or things like that. So thinking about what areas or fields that you're interested in so that you're not just shooting in the dark with everything. And hopefully these lists will evolve and grow or change over time. But it's worth looking at yourself and the places in the past where you have really enjoyed working or not enjoyed working, and writing those down and figure out why it is that you're drawn or not drawn to those places. Related to that, there are probably things that you value about a job, and there are things that a job will value from you. So again, it's another one of those things where you think about, what are the things that are important to me? And this is a trial and error kind of thing. I've learned a lot of these things because I've worked in places that completely ignore or override some of these values in myself. So it's taken a little bit for me to even come down to this. Things like, I am a purpose-driven person and I want to work for a place that is purpose-driven. I want to work at a place where my colleagues and coworkers are my friends. That is not a given everywhere. And if that's important to me, I need to know that. I value team over competition. I value work-life balance, and I want a place that at least cares about that, whether or not it exists, right? So I took some time and wrote these down, because what will happen is that if you value something, you're going to want to ask whether a company also values it. And knowing what it is that you care about will help you figure out whether a job is a good fit for you and shape the questions that you ask in interview prep. Okay? If also related to that, are there things that are deal breakers for you? For some people, it's the amount of travel that they will not do. It's a certain kind of boss that they will never work for, or a distance they have to travel, or things like that. So are there things for you that are deal breakers? Write those down. For example, I will never want to work at a place that is all about efficiency and all about numbers. That's something that would be a deal breaker for me. Or a place that expects you to work 80 hours a week but tells you that you're not. So what are those things for you? Of course, that one question, what are your weaknesses? Be honest about those. It's not a place where you just dress up a weakness as a strength or a strength as a weakness. Just be honest about the areas that you want to develop in, and whether or not you talk about them is up to you, but know that these are your areas that you might want to work on your own, or look for opportunities to develop in other places. Again, always worth naming and writing it down, right? This is the part that I'm excited about. These things are things that you need to reflect on, and that you can do at any time, all the time, and I hope that you do. Other pages that I am passionate about people keeping are these stories. When people job search, that is for some reason the one time that they come up with all their great stories, because most interviews, I want to say all interviews, include questions like, tell me about a time where you, and you're like, So prepare those stories, and it's easier to prepare them as you go along and experience them. These are things that I would say you're most proud of, that are most notable, that provided a lot of results and things like that. I say, think about the story first, the question later, because you don't want to be limited by the kinds of stories that you write, because you're thinking about it from a single question perspective. So, but this is what I mean, right? When you think of your stories and you're in your job or your student organization or whatever you are, what was your role? What job were you in? When? About what time, right? And talk about these things. What was going on? What was the situation, the scenario? What was the problem at hand? And then for you, what was your role in it? What action did you specifically take in response to the problem? And most importantly, what happened as a result of your action? Was it positive? What would you learn? How did the team benefit? What numbers did you turn over because of a choice that you made or an action that you took? These things, people often forget to talk about the result of what happened, but you can't just say, yep, and then I stepped in and worked overnight and created a spreadsheet that gave us the answer. Okay, but then what happened with that? The result of that being that, you got $1 million client, or you saved the company X amount of dollars, or whatever. You write that whole thing down. And afterward, you look at the story in its entirety and pull out what themes, behaviors, skills that exemplifies. So if any of those questions come up, you can tell a story about it. You can tell this story about it. And it's a story that you care about and that was important to you. And you can find different entry points for that story. That's important. as a technical note, the things that I was using on this, I did the headers with a Crayola marker, the highlights with the light end of this Zig brushable brush pen. They're both brush ends, and just added that gray highlight. And I'm just using my everyday Pilot G2 in a 05. Earlier, you might have seen this teal Papermate Ink Joy gel pen in a 0.7. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. I get so excited about this. So, stories, right? It's like when you write your resume, the first 2 bullet points should be things that you are most proud of related to that job. Don't ignore those things just because you just start listing things in order, right? So, again, stories. And then the other part that I'm really excited about, because it's such a big part of my job search, when I graduated grad school, I was unemployed for a couple months, and I had a hard time with that. Eventually, after watching many, many seasons of Grey's Anatomy in private practice, I pulled it together and was like, what can I be doing right now? What should I be activating on? And it was people. One of my colleagues who is brilliant, he says, when you job search or when you're looking for your place in the world, it is not about what you know. It's not even about who you know. It's about who knows you. And part of that is building relationships, finding ways to demonstrate your passion throughout your entire life, and not just when you're job searching. So this is something you should be doing whenever you can, whenever you are interested, whenever you see someone or meet someone or hear about someone who's doing something interesting that you want to know more about. So this is important to me because I didn't get my first job out of grad school until I did my 26th informational interview, coffee chat, one-to-one, what have you. 26. And those are just the people I didn't know. And when I tell my students this, they kind of freak out, but it makes sense because I learned more and I was kind of picky about where I wanted to be, and the more and more people knew who I was and what I was interested in. So when I think about people and a spread that you should absolutely have in your career development, it is this. So a short index. I'm using 2 pages for 2 different things so that you can see them next to each other, but this could easily be 2 pages of people. So who is it? Who referred them to? Who referred you to them? Some quick notes about why you want to talk to them, and then the page number that the long version is on. You can do whatever you want on here. You might want to do a little checkbox for whether you've met with them or when you met with them, if you sent them a thank you card, whatever. But have a page that is an index for the people that you want to keep track of and talk to. And then on the next page, have a page dedicated to that person once you set up some time to meet with them. Give people time to respond to and ask. People are so willing to sit down and talk to you about their story. And this is why it's important to do this before you're really job searching, because then it feels authentic. You really do want to sit down with them and hear their story. The emails that I've sent have been kind of like, you know, I was talking to this person and because of my interest in this, they recommended that I talk to you. Do you have, 30 to 45 minutes in the next coming weeks to chat with me about your story and, a couple questions here and there? And that has been really helpful. People are always interested in talking about themselves. So once that happens, I do a page and look up some things about this person. So what are the key highlights about their journey? That is usually available on their LinkedIn and Googleable pages, right? You don't want to go in and ask them really basic questions that you could have Googled. You can, but in the many, many one-to-ones that I've had, the people who have stood out to me are the people who have gone beyond what is a given and already exists on the internet and ask me specific questions. So they'll say things like, I noticed that you do these 3 huge roles in your job right now. How do you balance those 3 things? Do you feel like you're always spread out, or that you can focus and things like that? That showed me that this person took the time to look at my stuff that I put time into creating and putting out there before asking me questions, which is kind of cool. So, pro tip. Also, if you know that they have other interests that you can ask about. This makes them human. This makes them easier to connect to, easier to find curiosity around. So what are other things that you can weave into your conversation? And coming in with intentional questions, right? So the kinds of questions that you could have on this page would be specific, nuanced questions about their personal journey. People love to share their story, and they're all interesting. People get to where they are in such interesting ways. Questions about the specific industry or company. So for example, if I was looking to work in a university, I would ask about that department. I would maybe look up some recent news or developments that I knew were going on at the department and ask, what are the changes to how you're working with that, or what's the impact of that on your students or whatever. Something a little more nuanced that shows that you are you have a pulse as to what's going on with the industry or the field. Advice. For me, I was wondering, how do I get experience in these areas from your point of view, or the committees that you might be on that I should check out, or things like that. Client insight. I knew that I wouldn't be able to get a job unless I could tell my employer about the students that I would be working with. So if you have a similar field where you work with clients or a certain audience or a certain demographic, it is worth asking these people what insights they have about working with that population to give you more nuance into whether A, you want to work with that population, or how your skills can best serve that population. Again, asking the stuff you can't Google, so the nuances, the culture pieces. If you go back to your values, you can ask people about what the culture is like to see if they match up to your values. Again, that's why that personal work is so important, so that you can also be the one asking the questions and deciding if it's a right fit for you. It's like dating, y'all. It is like dating. You don't want to just cast a wide net and just get any job. You want to know what it is that you're looking for, and you're asking people for their recommendation, right? So at the end, I usually ask, so based on our conversation, who do you think I should talk to further and get more insight or knowledge or advice or whatever? And so they'll usually give me a list of 2 or 3 names, and so I write those down, and that's how this starts to expand, right? And that's how it starts to build momentum, and it's easier to connect with people through another person that they know than it is to cold call. So you can ask them to e-connect you, or you might just do it yourself, but either way you have some names that they have referred to you. Follow-ups, this is interesting, right? If you want to keep the connection alive, you can do a couple things. You can send them a LinkedIn request. That's pretty standard. Customize that message. Or what you could do is write down some interesting themes or thoughts or topics that you talked about so that you can go back later, and if you find an article or stumble upon a question that you want to ask, that you can follow up with this person and say, hey, I was thinking about this. What do you think? Keeps the connection alive in a meaningful, authentic way. And then reflections. At the end of every week that I was doing these informational interviews, one-to-ones, I learned something new, not only about myself, about the students, but also just about how to ask these questions. And every week my process changed, my questions changed, they got better, I got more specific, and I was getting at more of the heart of what I wanted to get at, and not just had a nice conversation. You can really leverage these conversations to give you some really in-depth knowledge about what you're looking for. Because, all throughout, hopefully, you'll find someone that can connect you to a job that you didn't even know about, that they will forward you jobs that they think you'd be a great fit for now that they know you. It's, especially if you're nervous at interviews, it is a really great opportunity to have a more low-stakes, authentic conversation rather than in a formal space where you are trying to get a job. So this is why I think this part is important before you even get to the application part. I'll do another video at some point about tracking applications and interview prep, but this I think is the key, is all this stuff ahead of time. So that's what I got for you. You can put all the tasks that you come up with in here. I mean, you could do an insert in your traveler's notebook, you can do a section or just pages in your bullet journal, but then I would, migrate some of the tasks into my weekly, so that if I knew I needed to do a thank you note or things like that, then I would put that in my in my tasks. If you're really serious about doing this work, you can make it one of your weekly habit trackers, you know, do something for job search every single day or one-to-ones every single day, whatever. Those are different ways that you can see that show up in your bullet journal. But this was more about advice than about the bullet journal, but I hope that some of it was useful, especially if you are looking to figure out your next step or whatever. But if you liked it, please share, like, subscribe. But above all, I hope that you enjoy. I'll see you next time.